This couple just got triplets, but that didn't stop the husband from suddenly leaving his wife after a DNA test. It would take 10 years for the man to realize the mistake he made, during which his wife could only guess why he left. No one could have expected the story behind his disappearance. Man leaves wife and triplets after DNA test. 10 years later, he admits he made a mistake. Liam and Emma were over the moon after they started their family. After 9 months of anticipation, their triplets were finally there. "You did great, honey," Liam told his wife after kissing her on the forehead. The triplets were healthy, and when Emma fully recovered, the family could finally go home. Liam was living his dream. He got the wife he always wanted with more kids than he could ever imagine. Everything seemed great, but that would soon change because nasty rumors started spreading about his family. It began with whispers, but eventually people started telling him directly that his wife was cheating. It wasn't hard for Liam to ignore these ridiculous accusations initially. Still, eventually, he reached the limit on how much he could ignore. The triplets were growing steadily, and he realized they looked like her, but not like him. Was there any truth to the rumors? Because that wasn't the only thing that bothered him. Emma often came home late, and Liam didn't know where she spent her night. He would ask her every time, and she would give a quick response. But the last few times, he caught her in a lie, and that bothered him. Why would she feel the need to lie to him? Liam still loved Emma, but the thoughts kept returning to his mind. One night, when Emma was gone again, he was pacing around the room and it reached the boiling point. Although Liam wanted to believe his wife with all his heart, he wasn't sure. So he ordered a secret DNA test. A couple weeks passed by and Liam eagerly awaited his results. The triplets were healthy and growing steadily, and the rumors started to subside. "I love you," Liam told his wife when he left for work. Everything seemed great, but then the phone rang and the life he knew would change for it. Liam speaking, he said, answering the unknown number. To his surprise, it was the hospital. Beforehand, they told him the results would be sent to him, but now they called. That can't be good, he thought. And that thought was confirmed when the doctor asked him to visit the hospital. What was going on? Liam told his work he would take the day off and rush to the hospital. His mind was racing. Were the rumors true then? He asked himself. He made his way through the hospital, and Liam's hopes sank when he walked into the doctor's office. The doctor looked very glum. "Take a seat," the doctor said, gesturing a chair. Liam sat down slowly, preparing himself for what the results would show him. The doctor handed him a document, which he read as fast as he could, but halfway through, his vision became blurry because tears started forming, and he began to sob. Since the moment the call ended, Liam had prepared himself for the worst-case scenario, but it didn't seem to have helped him. No preparation would have been enough for this as the results hit him like a truck. There's no mistake. He asked between sniffs. The doctor just shook his head with a sorry look. Liam made his way home and was happy to see that Emma was gone. He thanked the babysitter and prepared food for the triplets, after which he brought them to bed. When Liam was alone in the living room, he crashed on the couch and thought about what to do next. The results got to him, as did the fact that his wife was gone from the house again. "I can't do this anymore," he said. Liam clenched his fists and stood up abruptly. He couldn't sit down anymore as frustration took over his body. He needed an outlet. Then the front door opened. "Honey, I am home." Emma's voice sounded from the hallway. Liam's mind raced. His heart seemed to explode, and he suddenly felt hot. When his wife walked into the room, he couldn't restrain it any longer, and all his emotions and frustrations came out. "Where did you go this time?" he screamed at her. At first, Emma was perplexed by his sudden outburst, but not much later, the couple was having a severe fight. Emma told him he couldn't talk to her like that, but Liam ignored her and demanded answers. The argument escalated so far that Liam couldn't take it anymore and left the house. "Have fun with your children." Liam's voice echoed through Emma's head. What did he mean by that? But she was so angry her mind couldn't fully process it. She would ask when he would return. But after a few days, Liam still hadn't returned, and those days turned into weeks without ever hearing from him. During that time, Emma repeatedly played their fight in her head. "Have fun with your kids," was the last thing Liam said before he left. It made her assume her husband believed all those nasty rumors about her. She was angry at him, but also at herself. But then everything suddenly changed. 2 weeks after Liam left the house, Emma found an envelope addressed to him. Without a moment of hesitation, she opened it. She was surprised to see a letter from the hospital. "What is this?" Emma whispered in disbelief. But when she opened the document attached, she was left shocked and confused. Emma opened the document and her eyes grew wide. "A DNA test," she said in surprise. Her hands fumbled as she tried to get to the result page. Once there, Emma let out a big yelp in astonishment. The result confirmed what she already knew. Liam was the father. But that meant this document confirmed that Liam knew he was the father of the triplets, Emma's mind raced and her knees felt weak. When she sat down on the couch, she started to cry. This sudden revelation hurt her deeply. He left his wife and children without a father and husband. Why? That question stayed unanswered for years, but Emma managed to get her life in order. It took her some time to realize, but eventually she accepted the fact that her husband had left her and wouldn't come back. But then she received a surprising letter that would change her life completely. She read the name aloud in surprise. It had been 10 years since they last spoke to each other. Emma quickly opened the letter and was surprised to see what it contained. It was an invite to the coffee place they always used to go to. "We need to talk," the letter said. Emma stared at it, flabbergasted, not knowing what to do. Was this real as he invited her to the coffee place they frequented? It seemed to be. "I have to do this," she assured herself. This was her chance to finally get answers after all these years, but it wouldn't be what she expected. Although Liam invited her to meet at 8:30, Emma was already ordering her coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning. She had just sat down when the door opened and a man walked in. Even though he looked terrible, she recognized him immediately. "Why did you leave?" Emma screamed at him. Liam froze in his tracks. He had been expecting to see Emma, but not an angry version of her. He had been avoiding her for weeks and he had no idea what to say. The man was startled by the sudden scream, but his facial expression turned soft when he saw it was Emma. "I have a lot to explain," Liam simply said. Emma was confused by how calmly he reacted, but sat at the table he gestured to. "I made a mistake." He started, I wanted you to hate me and that you never wanted to see me again," he said, explaining what happened years ago. The outburst's sole purpose was so she would hate him, so it would be easier to let him go and continue her life without him. Emma was extremely confused. Liam saw Emma open her mouth. She wanted to interrupt him, but he carried on with his story, telling her there was no option for him to stay with her. Then Emma had heard enough and took her opportunity. "Why would you leave me?" she demanded, not expecting the shocking answer. "Because I'm ill," Liam said. The surprise and shock inside Emma were replaced by anger in a split second. "Ill," she repeated. What kind of reason is that to leave his family? That would be a reason to stay. She could have supported him, but when Liam started to explain his reasoning, she fell silent. Liam explained the DNA results contained more than the document Emma got in the mail. The doctor invited him to the hospital, and when he arrived, the doctor told him he was severely ill. There was very little hope for a long life, and on his way home, a plan formed inside Liam's head. Liam knew how much Emma loved the triplets and would never want her to miss anything about their upbringing. His illness would obstruct that. "I couldn't take that away from you," he said, so he acted rude and left, leaving the family for a better future, or so he thought. Once Liam severed the ties with his family, he went back to the hospital to undergo heavy care, but it soon turned out there was not much they could do, and they gave him just a few months to live. Although regretting leaving his family, he accepted his fate, but then Liam held on longer than any doctor had foreseen. The months turned into a year, and Liam felt relatively strong and was ready to continue fighting. In the meantime, the medical world around him continued to develop, and there was now a medical trial that he could join, which would change everything. What was supposed to be a short sickbed turned into a long and intensive medical trial. The experimental trial took a heavy toll on Liam mentally and physically, but he managed to power through it, and eventually the possibility of a full recovery became reality. "But I need your help for that," Liam said. It was silent for a moment as Liam allowed Emma to process his story. Then she bursted, "My help." She repeated, her voice trembling with fury. "He came back after 10 years to ask for help." "How dare you," Emma uttered, not knowing there was even more to the story. Emma's reaction didn't shock Liam. He understood how she felt. He tried to reason with her and explain his mistake. He wouldn't have come if he had any other option, but Emma didn't want to hear it and raised her voice. However, Liam interrupted before she could finish her sentence, saying something shocking. "I need a kidney transplant," Liam shouted over Emma's voice. For the second time, it went quiet. Emma's mind was racing. Why does he need her help? Did she have to donate? But Liam quickly followed up his scream by explaining she didn't have to worry. There was just an obstacle he needed help with. Liam needed to undergo surgery to fully recover, but he needed to be in top condition to withstand that surgery. One of his kidneys was damaged due to the medical trial, so he needed a new one before he could undergo the procedure. But to get a kidney, he needed consent from his family. Family, the word echoed through Emma's mind. It turned out they were still registered as partners, and the thing holding her husband's recovery back was a consent form. Liam could see Emma thinking and tried to help her. "I did something unforgivable, so if you sign the form, I will leave you alone." The cogs inside Emma's head were turning at a rapid pace. This sudden revelation shocked her, and she had mixed feelings. The man she loved most came back asking for help after leaving her alone with the triplets. Then suddenly, Emma stood up and left the coffee shop, leaving Liam alone and disappointed. Once outside, Emma sighed deeply. She opened the door. "You coming?" she asked when she poked her head through the gap in the doorway. The man looked up and couldn't hide the surprise on his face. Was this the right decision? Emma thought while gesturing for Liam to follow her. Liam stood up, sheepishly, unsure what Emma's plan was. He made sure to stay behind her and follow at a reasonable distance, but then she suddenly entered a car and gestured for him to join. Moments later, Liam was shocked by her answer about where they were going. The hospital, of course. He was stunned by this sudden turn of events. Only moments ago, he was sure that Emma wouldn't sign the consent form, and now they were heading toward the hospital. But then a saddening thought struck him. She probably only wanted to sign the document to get rid of him. At the information desk, Liam asked for the consent form and looked at Emma while he waited. She was staring into the distance, avoiding eye contact. When the employee handed over the document, she was pulled out of her gaze and signed the form, causing weight to lift off Liam's body. But then, once he handed over the form, the employee started planning the transplant. Liam was happy to hear the waiting list wasn't too long and would be informed once a definitive date was scheduled. Liam turned around wanting to thank Emma, but discovered she was no longer there, leaving him behind with mixed feelings. Beforehand, Liam thought this would be the outcome, but deep down, he hoped this moment would mean something else, that they would stay in touch or maybe even more. Liam understood he had made a horrible mistake, but wished Emma understood he did it with good intent. That didn't seem to be the case, however. Months later, Liam finally got the call. "You can finally tell that woman to stop calling us," the voice said before hanging up. Liam found this odd woman calling. He mumbled, had his mother call at the hospital. It was the last thing he thought about before the anesthesia kicked in. Later that day, Liam woke up in his hospital room with mixed feelings. He should have been delighted the transplant was finally done and successful, but he felt sad and disappointed. The cost of his recovery was paid by leaving his family. He wished he could do it over again, but then something unexpected happened. A nurse came by to check up on him. She read his monitors and scribbled some things down on her clipboard. "Everything looks good," she said with a smile. Liam didn't feel like speaking and nodded, but then he was shocked to his core. "Your family can come by soon," the nurse said. My family?" Liam asked, confused, but the nurse was already gone. He saw his heart rate increase on his monitor and his hands felt clammy. Could it be? Surely not, right? But then he heard footsteps approaching, kids' voices and laughter. Moments later, 3 identical children walk into the room, followed by Emma. Liam was overjoyed by the sight of this. How could this happen? He didn't deserve this. When Emma saw his confused look, she explained she hadn't fully forgiven him, but wanted to try to be a family again. Liam's recovery would mark the turning point in their relationship, eventually returning to what it once was.